In this tutorial, we're going to review the After Effects workspace, and we're going to talk about the basic transform settings in After Effects and how you can use those tools to achieve basic animation. So in After Effects, you always want to start with a new composition, and you have a project, and within that project you have a comp. So if it asks you if you want to start with a project, you'll say yes, new project, and then you will add a composition layer. So this will be our work area. In some programs, you may often hear it referred to as the stage, but this is where anything visible on your screen will happen when you are animating. So what we are going to do is we are going to work with a vector, so a logo vector, and I'm going to show you how to bring that in and apply basic animation using the transform settings. So we're going to go to File, Import File, and here I have my demo logo, and I'm going to say Import as Footage, Create Composition, and I'm going to tell it to open. Might take a couple seconds. There we go. All right, so you'll notice here I have just the logo itself, and I've brought it in before, so that's why I've got logo 1 and logo 2. Right now, this is just the whole logo itself, and I don't want that. I'm actually going to make sure that I'm in my comp 1, and you will notice that it brings in a couple of things here, but the main thing that we're concerned with is the layers. So we can actually delete both of these demo logo, or one, whatever yours brought in, because the comp is going to be your work area. So this is our composition 1, and we currently do not have anything to work with, so we need to bring these assets in. So down in your comp panel here, this is our work area. I want you to highlight, and you're going to click and drag and add your logo components to your composition area. And yes, this kind of came in a little funky, but I can remix this here. So I'm not applying any animation yet. I'm just getting my assets to the starting point that I want them to be. So if it comes in a little funky on you, you can always just quickly relay it out the way it was supposed to be. Move that little guy up there and bring it down into the center space here. So with this animated logo, say for example, if I wanted to maybe have a company and I want the logo to be like on a splash screen on a TV monitor when I walk into the business. This is something that's easy to achieve in After Effects, or animated logos that can be seen on websites. Any kind of basic logo animation can be done in After Effects. This can be fairly sophisticated, but since some of you guys may have more skills than others, we're just going to get started with basic settings. So I'm going to animate one element at a time, and we're going to use different attributes to do that. So here I've got the sun. If I click on that, I've got the slogan, I've got company name, and I've got a little blue swoosh there. All right, so I'm actually going to reorder these. I'm going to bring my sun to the top, blue swoosh. That way it's in the order that I see it there. You will notice the little blue purple bars here. Currently I have 30 seconds worth of animation, which 30 seconds doesn't seem like that long, but it actually takes a little time to even accomplish a 30-second animation in After Effects. So we are going to, here, if I take this away, say I want my sun to be only up for 12 seconds. If I drag my playhead, you will notice that after 12 seconds, it disappears. So the little blue bars, they will automatically be set to the full time, or the little blue purpley bars, whatever color you want to call them. But that shows you how long each element is on the screen. Okay, so the sun, I actually think I'm going to start with the blue swoosh and have that animate in, and then have the sun pop over it, and then bring in the other elements. So right now I'm just going to turn my sun off so that I'm not concerned with that. So just like anything else, you have layers, you can turn them on and off. And then to access more of your animation properties here, so under each one of these, if you click the little expand arrow, you will notice you see transform, and transform gives you lots of options. So in this tutorial, we're going to be concerned with position, scale, rotation, and opacity. And we are going to apply at least one of these to each of our elements so that you can see how those work, okay? So say I want this to fade in. I'm going to start at the very beginning. You want to make sure that your playhead is where you want to apply the animation. And this little blue arrow here calls it, After Effects calls it the current time indicator. I will also often refer to it as the playhead, okay? So here I'm going to engage. I'm going to click my little stopwatch, and for the opacity there, so this is my starting point, and I'm going to say 0, and it disappears. And then I want to, about 4 seconds, I want that to be fully visible. So let's take just a quick look here. You'll notice that animates in. All right, so now I'm going to hit spacebar. We're going to play that. So that's actually a little slow. I'm going to drag, so these little blue diamonds, those are your keyframes. And I'm actually going to drag that to about 2 seconds because I want that to happen a little faster. So the biggest thing in After Effects is just paying attention to what you're telling to do when. And when you have your little blue stopwatch on, if you make any changes, that will create a new keyframe. So say, for example, if I set this to 50, and I've moved my playhead over to almost 4 seconds, it will create a new keyframe for me. So right now I've kind of got this going back and forth, dark and light. Okay, so I'm going to delete that last keyframe, and now I have just these guys. Yeah, looks nice, very subtle. And now I'm going to combine 2 of these. So say, for example, I want the swoosh to get bigger and smaller, or smaller to larger as it appears. So scale here, I'm going to click scale, and currently the scale's locked. So I'm going to say I want this to go from 0 to, I'll go to my keyframe there, to the 100%. So the size it was originally. So again, I have combined 2 effects. So let's watch that. See, super simple, but looks really sophisticated. So all I did, and you can actually accomplish fairly sophisticated animations just by combining these attributes in the transform panel. And there's some other things that I'll introduce you to, and some other things that we'll talk about in class. But I want you to know that you can achieve animation with just these controls. Okay, so let's watch that one more time. Nice. All right, so I'm going to have that stay there. I'm going to move my keyframes so they're right at the same time there. And you can actually, if you need a larger, if those are hard to see, you can zoom in and out on your time panel there. All right, so I am good to go with the way that looks. And then I'm going to collapse this panel. And I'm now going to turn my sun on and animate that, okay? So I'm going to here. So I've got, before I used the scale and I used opacity. If I want something, if I wanted this to rotate, I could have it rotate around. And let's see, maybe we want to, with the rotation. So this is where, and I want to make sure that I am starting at the right time here. So as soon as this gets done, I'm actually going to key over just a little bit in my timing so that the sun will start animating. Actually, we'll do it right when that ends. All right, so I am back in my sun area here. And again, it's all about the timing of these animated elements. And then what I want to do is, let's mess around with, I've got the opacity, the position. So maybe I want this to come in from the top. So I'm gonna turn on my position here. And so you can actually click and drag certain areas too. And you can actually use this guy, if you drag here, to move it on the axis. So this is there, and then if I want to move it up or down, I'm actually going to I think I want this to start off the screen. And then when I'm going to give it about a second to come back down, and then I'm going to bring it back down. All right, so let's just see what that looks like. All right, so that happens a little fast. You know, if you wanted it to be a little bit more dramatic, then you could drag. So again, how fast these things happen are going to be determined of how close your keyframes are. So let's look at 1 second. So that's 1 second worth versus, maybe this does need to be a little bit more dramatic. I'm going to drag this over here. All right, so there we go. Looks a little better. And then another thing as well, I actually want to use that same scale thing and have this go from 0, and I want it to get larger once it meets the horizon there. All right, so now let's play it. Gets bigger, boom. All right, let's put that together. Nice. All right, so again, I'm using super simple. So position, we had it come off the screen. You can use position to move things around the screen, to do whatever you want to do. So we've successfully used position, scale, and opacity. In the next one, we'll come back and we'll use rotation, and we'll mess around with that. So let's here, again, making sure that I'm gonna give it just a couple of seconds to appreciate that. And my current time indicator, I'm going to go just shortly after my animation from my sun there. And then I'm going to go to company name, and we're actually going to we're going to do something kind of cool with this rotation. Instead of having it just rotate, and just to kind of mess around with what rotate does, just to kind of give you the idea there, you can actually have it to where it just kind of rotates around in a circle, or I'm actually going to have this rotate into 3D space. So I'm going to turn on, let's see, the little guy that I wanted there. I'm going to enable that normal. Let's see, we'll do, oops, that's not what I want to do. Flowchart, enable. All right, so position, scale, rotation, all these different dudes here. All right, so we'll come back to the 3D. I want to touch on some other things with that. But let's go ahead and just kind of play around with the idea of bringing this in. I'm just going to have, I think with this guy, I'm just going to have it just kind of animate in subtly with that fade in like we did before. So I'm going to change my opacity to 0. And then I'm going to hop over and have here. All right, let's watch it from boom. Okay, and then with the slogan, I'm actually going to have, so that was opacity, and then with the slogan, we're going to mess around here, and we're going to do rotation. And with the rotation, you have this little dude here. You can even change the anchor point, which will change. You mess around with the anchor point, you can kind of have it rotate. Let's see. I'm gonna go to here, and again, we're just kind of messing around, seeing what this does. If you do 360, it'll go all the way around. Let's just kind of hang out and see what happens with that there. Whee! All right. So obviously it's not anchored directly under this, but this is showing how to use and manipulate that anchor point to have it rotate from a certain area. So and it's rotating around, and you can actually edit the anchor point and kind of see where it's going here. So you can use the anchor point to have it. So yeah, I think I made 2 keyframes there. So I've got a keyframe over a keyframe, and then I've got changing anchor points, which makes it look a little weird there. So let's bring in boom. So because we changed that anchor point and brought the anchor point down a little bit, so anytime you're rotating, you're actually rotating around this anchor point. So if the anchor point is center of the object, you're just going to get a basic rotation. But this actually looks like, see there. So we're starting the beginning. And 2. All right, so sorry, I pressed a key, you guys, and it jacked up my timeline. Let's try that again. Nice. And again, with the slogan, I'm actually going to have that be opaque as well. So we're going to have that be 0, and then we're going to have it go to 100. And let's see, you'll notice that, yeah, there we go. Let's try that. And again, you can change the timing of these. You all will not be working with sound just because that's a whole nother different kink to put in the situation. But think about if there was sound behind this. And then let's do a quick, I'm just going to put a background behind this. I'm going to go to a shape here. I want the fill, or actually don't want stroke on it. I've got a fill there of just this kind of light blue. And I'm going to put background on it there. And you could tweak the fill to be anything. You know, you could put a gradient on it or bring in a gradient background, make it kind of nice. So think about how the background works with the foreground as well. And let's see, I'm actually going to change this to be a little lighter. Perfect. All right, so now let's watch everything one more time. All right, so we'll cover a couple of things in some other videos, but again, look, we use just the basic parts of After Effects: anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. And I encourage you just to mess around with those just to see what all you can achieve, because you can actually get, like I said, some interesting things just from using those key areas. And that's where we start with basic animation in After Effects. Also remember, you will have your comp, which is the animation layer that you're working in, and you want to make sure that before you bring your Illustrator file in, everything has to be in a separate layer. So that is basic animation in After Effects.